So today I'm going to share with you a reading that I did for somebody in a mediumship circle that I'm a part of. Now, I've mentioned this mediumship circle before, and it's an amazing part of my life. I joined this mediumship circle in October of 2021, very shortly after I had my first experience, from what I can tell, or from what I can notice. Maybe I had other experiences, but this time I really noticed this first experience channeling the soul of somebody's departed loved one. That was in September, and that's what my first episode is about. And I had already joined this mediumship circle a few months before that, and I joined it. Well, what I mean by join, I added myself as a member virtually to the group on the app Meetup. And it is a circle that is based in New York City, which is one reason I decided to join it virtually or become a member. And it was free. It is free. And I figured, well, maybe I can get a reading from a medium in that group. I didn't want to join because, I might be a medium. I was curious about developing my mediumship abilities, but I never thought that I would ever be doing readings for people to the extent that I am now in mediumship circle. And disclaimer, I don't do mediumship readings of people who are outside of the circle. Maybe for a couple of friends, but I don't do mediumship as a service. So I added myself to the group on Meetup, but I never attended a meeting. And I figured, well, I'm not going to go to it because I don't need to hear from somebody on the other side. And also, it seems to be a group where you develop your own mediumship abilities, and it's more for people who think they might be mediums. So why should I join that? Come September, that experience with the soul of Ryan happens, as I share in my first episode of this podcast. And one of the first things I think of is I should go to one of those mediumship circle meetings. And then I've been going ever since, almost every single week since October. Maybe I've missed 1 or 3 weeks, but I've been going very consistently. And it's such a highlight of my week. It is something I look forward to every single week. And some weeks I will do readings for 3 or 4 people, and maybe only 1 out of the 4 can really resonate with what I'm saying in that reading. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I did readings for 3 or 4 people, and 3 out of the 4 really, really resonated with what I said. Sometimes all 4 of them do. Sometimes I only do 1 reading in a night. Usually it's around 2 or 3. And it's a hit or miss, and that's okay. And it's not easy because I get in my head, and my pride takes over, my ego takes over. I start telling myself, oh, you shouldn't be doing this or even trying. But I keep going, and then a week comes up when I get the messages, they're on the money. And it's really my own self-doubt that gets in the way, and I'm learning more and more each week how to just say what I'm feeling, seeing, hearing, sensing, instead of trying to, receive it and then trying to figure out what I'm receiving. No, I can't do that. I need to just say what I'm seeing or sensing. And I can filter it in a way that, I can say, let's say it's something that may be inappropriate or something that may be very personal. I'm going to try and say it in a way that is appropriate, that is respectful. But if I have to think really hard about what I'm seeing or sensing, it kind of waters down the senses, that sixth sense, and all the senses that I'm using to relay a message, to receive, to relay, and to share. So 2 weeks ago, I did a reading in Mediumship Circle for several people. But what's interesting is I saw these 2 people on my screen, and I felt like there were souls that were coming for each of them, but together. Now, neither of these 2 people knew each other. And the first one I spoke to was a gentleman, and I told him, I'm getting a mother figure, a mother energy. Is your mom passed? He said yes. I told him there is some tie to Venezuela, the country of Venezuela in South America. Are you from Venezuela? He goes, no. Is there someone in your family? No. I go, okay, we'll pass on that. To rewind a little bit, the reason that I started talking to this gentleman and had tied the soul coming to him to the soul coming to this other person who is a woman is because I was feeling that these 2 souls in the physical world suffer from head trauma to the head. So I'm talking to this gentleman, right? Venezuela doesn't make sense, but the head trauma does. And he said, well, actually, you're saying my mom, but my grandmother fell and hit her head. And I told him, well, this has to do with her hitting her head, and that was the cause of her passing, or it led to complications that then caused her passing? He said, yes, that's true. It led to complications. I said, okay. And then the next thing I said was, they're showing me that his grandmother, this mother figure, was showing me an old radio dial. And I feel like I'm growing up in a home where, let's say it's the 70s, but all the things in the home are from the 50s or the 60s or the 40s. And he said, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I told him, I feel like I'm you as a child in this home with all these old things. Everything's like 30, 20 years old. And he goes, yes, that makes sense. That was the end of that little reading. And then I went to the second person. Now, keep in mind, Venezuela made no sense to him. That was a spot where I felt like I didn't get something right. And I thought, oh, I hate when that happens. And in the moment, I was like, oh, I hate this. But it ended up being that his partner is from South America, but not Venezuela. I'm like, okay, she's from a totally different country in another region of the continent. So I don't know where Venezuela came from. But when that happens in a reading, I just say, let's pass on that. I could have gotten something wrong. I could be getting something from something else. Or it's just me interpreting something wrong, completely wrong. So now I go on to person number 2, and I told her, you have a soul that struggled with trauma to the head, and it's a young man. Does that make sense to you? She said, yes. And I said, and I feel like it's tragic. So either, and I told her this, I'm sorry to say this, but either someone took his life or we were negligent. Someone was negligent about him, and it led to this head trauma. Does that make sense? But either way, it was something tragic. She goes, yes, there was negligence. I believe there was negligence in regards to his health and his well-being. And then as I'm talking to her, I have my pen in my hand because I take notes as I do mediumship. I'm starting to scribble now, very like Tyler Henry style. Ever since I watched the Tyler Henry's new Netflix docuseries, I've been letting myself scribble a bit more, and it does help. So I'm scribbling, and I pause in my scribbling as I'm talking to her of what I just said, and I start like banging my pen on my paper, like fidgeting my pen in my hands and like doing it really hard. And I'm like, why am I doing this so hard? Why am I doing this? I thought, okay, maybe spirit is making me feel, but someone close to her feels. And I told her, I feel like there is a child who fidgets a lot. I feel like there is a child in your life who fidgets a lot. So do you have a son or a nephew who tends to fidget a lot, whether it's shaking a pen like what I'm doing here, and I showed her on my camera what I was doing, or maybe their leg shakes a lot, or maybe they do other kinds of fidgeting that we notice, and it's very noticeable behavior. And before she could say much more, because I think she said yes, but then before she could say more, I wanted to make sure I got this other part in. I told her, he is feeling spiritual energy. He's feeling energy from spirit, and they're letting me know, this young man in spirit is letting me know that he needs to do something like art, music, a sport, soccer, football, something that's going to help him release that energy and help him to express it in a way that's creative or that is beneficial to him. So I feel like I really need to tell you that. She says, like, that's really funny. My son, he does fidget a lot. He's clairvoyant, but he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to accept it. And he plays soccer. And I told her, well, this is this young man in spirit who passed tragically. He's validating that. And he makes me feel like your son is feeling his energy. That's what I feel. And she seemed really pleased to hear that. And she seemed to feel like, it seemed like she was getting validation of her experience with her son through this reading that I was giving to her. And one other thing I told her was that I just felt like I wanted to laugh. And this young man in spirit was making me want to laugh. Like he makes me feel like I'm your son and I'm laughing. So while there may not be a lot of laughter surrounding his gift of clairvoyance, his regarding his sixth sense and his gift of intuition, laughter is going to come. He just has to really express it in ways that are healthy for him, like art, sports. Keep doing the soccer he's doing. It's going to help him a lot. And that was probably one of the coolest readings I've done, because here I'm having this soul on the other side telling me about the soul of a child in the physical world who seems to be, well, no, not seems to be, it was confirmed by this woman. Her son is struggling with accepting his gift of intuition, his ability of intuition. We all have the ability. We are all gifted. It is a gift, and we're all gifted. But I want to make sure I make it clear that saying someone is gifted with XYZ in terms of spiritual work to me doesn't mean that they are the only people that can do it and you, the listener, or I, the host, can't. I think we all have the ability to tap into our intuition with spirit. The gift part of it is how it plays out. So for me, my gift, I believe, is tarot card reading, as well as mediumship, I feel. And I feel like it feels weird to say that. I need to become more confident. I always like to say I'm a developing medium, but I guess I'm always going to be developing anything in the spirit world. We're always learning. The learning never stops. Those are my gifts. You as a listener, your gift may be psychic ability, feeling like something's going to happen before you actually see it happening. Or for another person, it's hearing things, like literally hearing things in their ear. Maybe it's seeing spirit. Like I rarely see spirit. Other people have the gift of seeing spirit, but we all have the ability, but the gifts are different. So this young child, this son of this woman, has the gift of tapping into spirit in his own way. And what a wonderful way for a soul on the other side to validate that for this woman. I don't know how this man was related to her, but he came through and seemed to relay this message that she really needed to hear. She needed that boost of empowerment and encouragement to keep on keeping on. And she, being part of the mediumship circle, she herself accepts her ability of intuition. And she wants to help her son learn to accept it too and get comfortable with it. Telling her that him doing soccer and creative outlets and other things that will help him express this edge and this fidgety energy is really beneficial for him. Telling her that was probably a really wonderful validation for her to receive. That's one of several stories I have to share with you in regards to my developing mediumship. And based on the poll that I did on Instagram recently, it seems clear that there are some of you who want to hear more of these stories about the times that I read people with the ability of mediumship. So I'm going to share more stories. I intend to do more of these, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And just a reminder, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Juan Third Eye, as well as on Facebook. I'm under the name Juan Francisco. You can book a reading on my website at thirdeyesight.media, and leave a review if you like this podcast and you enjoy it. And give me your thoughts. Feel free to put in constructive feedback and criticism. I'm totally open to that. I will do my best to grow and change the podcast in a way that resonates the most with me and the audience and that feels authentic based on the feedback I receive. And any thoughts you have about it are super appreciated. I hope this leaves you off to a wonderful start to your day or a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next week on Third Eyesight. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.